That's all right.
One more step.
Check on the top? It's alright? I might fall, man. Don't worry, yeah, you have to.
Are you on Jazeera TV live?
Give him a chance.
I'll give him 15 minutes.
Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, I am here to announce a new religion. We have new revelation. We have a new religion. You have to believe me.
Oh, not another one.
Give me an attentive ear. I repeat my words. We have a new religion.
I want another one.
I agree, that's why I'm announcing this new religion. This religion, they have their leaders and their prophets. They have their books. They have their congregations. They even have these gatherings once a year. And their followers are blind like sheep. And they say, I don't know the answer, but read my holy book and read the chapter and read the verse. It's a new religion. Do you want to know the name of this new religion?
No.
Yes. It's called Atheism. They have their leaders and their prophets. Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, Professor Lawrence Krauss, Dan Dennett, and they have a saint now. The saint is Christopher Hitchens. He passed away recently, and they have their books. God is not great. They have their literature. The God Delusion, a letter to a Christian nation. The universe from nothing. And you have people, atheists, and I speak to them in this park, and they say, I don't know how to answer that question, but if you read my prophet Richard Dawkins, 2nd chapter, the 3rd verse, you get the answer. Not only that, they have gatherings every year. The Atheist Alliance International, the World Atheist Convention, they meet together and they worship these leaders and they sanctify these ideas. So in reality, from a sociological perspective, brothers and sisters and friends, atheism is just like another religion. The leaders, their books, and their blind followers. How many times do I recall speaking to a so-called intellectual atheist, and he will say to me, well, you have to read Professor Krauss's book, or you have to read Sam Harris. Is that an intellectual answer? Is that a valid answer, brothers and sisters? No, it's not. So from this perspective, we need now, as people of religion, people of spirituality, people who believe in a divine reality that is one and that he deserves to be worshipped, we need to reactivate, we need to activate each other, re-energize, and have a counter movement against this growing atheist tsunami. There was a conference in Saudi Arabia just a few months ago where the scholars came together to discuss the issue of atheism infiltrating the Muslim world, because we don't have enough people to stand tall and to engage intellectually with these arguments, because the atheist argument is very weak. You have to have more faith as an atheist than you have to have faith as a believer. I'm telling you, I believe this. You have to have more blind faith as an atheist than to have faith as a theist. Because it's very simple. We have very simple arguments for the existence of the divine reality. Let me summarize one for you. For example, this entire universe began to exist. It began. It popped into existence. It always wasn't there. If that's the case, there are only 4 possible logical explanations. Number 1, the universe came from or via nothing. Number 2, the universe created itself. Number 3, the universe was created by something else that was brought into being. by something else that was created. Number 4, the universe was created or brought into being by something that was not created. So let's logically assess this amongst ourselves. Number 1, if the universe began to exist, could it come from nothing?
Well, where did God come from?
Well, that's the question
Well,
we're going to address very shortly. Could the universe come from nothing or via nothing? Of course not, because from nothing, nothing comes. Nothing plus nothing plus nothing gives you nothing. That's the first point. The second point is, well, could the universe create itself? Well, this is a philosophical and logical absurdity. If the universe created itself, that would mean it was in existence and not in existence at the same time. If you want a crude example, think about this. Could your mother give birth to herself? Of course not. Well, let's look at the third logical possibility, that the universe ultimately was created by something else that was created. But this brings up a philosophical problem, which is an infinite regress of causes. It's irrational. You can never have an infinite regress of causes. For example, how could one cause get its causal power from another cause, and that cause gets its causal power from a prior cause? If that goes on forever, you will never have the cause in the first place. Take, for instance, the sniper example. Say I'm an American Marine and I'm going to shoot a bird. If only they just shot birds. And before I shoot the bird, I have to ask permission from the Marine behind me. If that goes on forever, I'm never going to shoot the bird. Likewise, if this universe that began to exist was as a result of something else, like another universe that began to exist, and if that went on forever, you would never have the universe. This is why even saying the question, who created God, negates your own existence.
That's a very good question.
Because God never began to exist. And interestingly,
and you said, well,
the philosopher Abraham Varghese in the book, There Is a God by Professor Anthony Flew, he summarizes his point amazingly. He says, theists and atheists, they actually agree on one thing. They agree that there was something preceding the universe, or there is something that always existed. It's either what caused the universe or the universe itself. But since we know the universe began, then it follows what created the universe was always there. So it brings us to the fourth logical possibility, is that there's an uncreated creator which makes sense of the divine reality. In 4 minutes, or around that time, we have annihilated the worldview of atheism. And interestingly, brothers and sisters, forget the science, forget the philosophy, forget the intellectual gymnastics. I believe, and I really humbly believe.
We don't care what you believe.
Yes, my atheist friend. I believe that atheism is not only an intellectual discussion, it's a psychological discussion. Because atheism, I believe, is actually an aberration of human nature. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I don't mean that in an offensive way. I mean that from a point of view that denying the divine reality is equivalent, sorry, it's cold, of denying yourself. Let me tell you why.
Don't bother.
Ourselves are made up of what? A consciousness. We can never deny that a human being is conscious. We have this third person subjective experience, and no machine, no theory, no form of empiricism or physicalism or scientism can ever discuss the consciousness, because the very fact that I have a conscious reality is actually proof of the divine reality. Let me explain why. Now, I could have a strawberry. Now, the scientists can say you are eating something, or they could even say you're eating a strawberry if they have some kind of MRI scan or probes in my brain, on my forehead, that I'm eating the strawberry. But they could never say what it is like to eat a strawberry. That is a third person subjective experience that belongs to me. That reality is called the hard problem of consciousness, as Professor Chalmers, David Chalmers, he aptly, eloquently writes about this in his book, that the hard problem of consciousness cannot be explained by materialism, by atheism, by physicalism, or by any form of scientism. And he proposes property dualism, that you have two properties for the universe, physical properties and consciousness properties. But I would argue that the very fact that science and materialism can't explain that third person subjective experience, which is called the hard problem of consciousness, that very fact is proof of the divine reality, because you need a conscious entity or cognitive entity, or all-knowing entity, an all-knowing entity that caused this consciousness. It is no wonder in the Quran, the book of the Muslims that they believe was sent down as everybody's guidance, it is no wonder that it says, those who forget God, God will make them forget their own selves. Thank you very much. God bless you. Be at peace. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, any questions? Yes.
What is divine? What is it? And how does it explain things?
Okay.
What is it for?
Yes. First and foremost, when I say the divine reality, I mean God. In the Islamic tradition, I'm going to explain. No, I'm going to explain. In the Islamic tradition, Allah, linguistically from an Arabic perspective, means Al-Ilah, the one who's deserving of worship, the creator of the entire universe. So the divine is actually the creator of the universe, the one that is uncreated, all-powerful, all-knowing, self-subsisting, independent, and free from that perspective. So that is the divine reality.
That's said ideas. What you said.
Have you finished?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I said God is divine.
Yes.
You haven't answered yet.
Yes. The divine is the being that transcends the universe.
Yeah, but what is it?
What is
Do you understand what is it?
Yes. The way we
What
understand.
are you? What are you?
I'm a-
You are flesh.
Yes.
What is divine?
What is divine? The divine is something other than the universe. Number one.
Something means you.
No, it doesn't. Of course not. For example,
What is you? You wouldn't say it's something.
okay, are you a woman?
You just want to get him, man.
No.
Why?
I'm allowed to ask
Because
questions.
No, but you can't show that to us. But you can define yourself by exclusion. For example, I'm not a woman. For example, there are two types of genders, male and female. If I'm not a female, therefore it follows I'm a male.
What
So
if you're
you-
hermaphrodite?
So whatever. The example I'm trying to show is that you could. You can. The point I'm trying to say is you can define things from exclusion. But the point I'm trying to say is we could assess certain attributes using our aql, our intellect, such as the fact that he's uncreated, that he's powerful, knowing, intelligent, because he created laws in the universe, and a lawgiver implies an intelligence, and all of these things. So we could assess that reality, right? Now, to get to know what that reality is, it has to convey a message to you. If someone was knocking on your door and you were not expecting anybody, you would have to say, who is it? And it would tell you who it is. So the information that we have, that we believe as Muslims humbly, is that we have a book called the Quran that tells us who and what the divine is.
So you know.
Yeah, it's in the Quran. Well, in a nutshell, read the Quran. Yes, sir.
You said humbly earlier on. Isn't a more humble position to say I'm not sure rather than I
Yes.
know?
In many matters,
So then surely the most humble position is not to be like an ultimate atheist that says I definitely don't know, nor an ultimate theologian who says, I definitely do know, but someone who says, I don't know, I'm not sure.
That's a very good point.
What about I don't understand?
Let me answer the question. In most matters, to say you don't know is the height of spirituality in Islam. For example, all of the scholars, when they wrote books about jurisprudence or even some Islamic thought matters, they would always say...
You don't take that perspective, do you?
I'm going to answer the question.
Are you unsure about whether there's an Allah?
No. But this is my point I'm trying to make.
Let
me address. Yeah, I know that. But let me address your point. So they would say, for example, Wallahu alam, and God knows best. We're not entirely sure. There's this humility in our spiritual tradition. However, let me ask you a question: is the world round?
I believe so.
Would you say you're agnostic that the world is round?
I mean, in the way that you mean it, no.
Exactly.
Ultimately, yes.
So
in the way you mean
this
it, no.
is my point. So my point is, I agree with you. There are many things that I'm agnostic about. I'm agnostic about maybe, does my wife love me? Yeah. No, I know she does. If she hears it, she'll kill me. So you could be agnostic about many things, even about philosophy and about, even in my tradition, in the Islamic spiritual tradition, I'm agnostic about maybe how I should pray. There are differences of opinion. How I should do certain things. There are valid differences of opinion. But there are some things in life that I am not agnostic about. Namely,
wait a minute. There's a fundamental difference between my experience of the world that I'm on, my experience of whether that tree is there and whether I'm agnostic about the existence of that tree, and your experience of God.
No,
there's absolutely you do not unless and maybe I'm mistaken, you believe that you're having some sort of divine revelation directly from God. Then your experience is different.
You're missing the point.
You may believe what you want to believe, and that's fine. But your experience must be different. You cannot tell me that your experience of God is the same as your experience of that tree. That's right.
I agree with you. We're not talking about experiences here.
When
we're talking about
Agnosticism that you talked about a moment ago, about whether the world is round, whether it's not round. Am I agnostic about it? It's a different reality.
No, it's not.
It is.
Let me explain why.
Because the shape of the earth, or not necessarily the shape of the earth, but my experience of the earth.
Can I explain why?
Is a different reality.
Because the evidence or the rational foundation for establishing the world to be round, in my view, is as strong as establishing that the God exists.
No.
Let me ask you a question.
You said in your view.
I want you to prove that the world is actually round.
Right now?
Okay, I'll walk round. I've just got back.
Yes,
I walked
but
in one
that's
straight-
not
I walked
true.
in one straight line and I didn't fall off the edge.
Is that true? You walk around the earth.
No.
So I want your proof of the earth being round.
He can't do that now, but he could.
That's different, but that is
No,
not.
but he could do that.
Yeah, well, I could do many things. I could fly.
No, but
I could fly.
No, but you're
I'm not
asking.
going to do it now, but I could
I know,
fly.
but you're asking for an unrealistic.
okay.
You're asking for. You are
He
because
believes the world is round,
No,
bro.
no, no, no.
I'm asking for proof.
No. It's like saying, do you have a wife?
Have one conversation.
Do you have a wife?
One
How can you prove it?
I'm gonna talk to
You
him
can't
in a
prove it right now, but you can prove
I
it.
can.
If you brought her here, you can prove it. You can't prove it right now.
No.
That's silly argument. That's silly argument.
Let's place that analogy.
No, that's
And
silly
I'll explain
argument.
why in a minute. Let me talk to him first.
To answer your question, have I done it? No. Could I do it?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Have other people done it? Yes.
Yes.
Are there other people here who
That's
have
what I
done
wanna hear
it? Quite
from you.
possibly.
That's what I wanna hear.
With regards to God,
No.
could you do it? No.
Sir.
Have you done it?
Missing
no.
the point.
Has
Has anybody
anybody
else
else
done
done
it?
it?
Words in my
No.
mouth.
Can you find anybody
You're
else here
putting
who's
words
done
in
it?
my mouth.
No.
I wanna have a
They're not the same.
Listen, sir.
You're comparing
What's your name?
apples to
What's your name?
You're not even comparing apples
What's
to
your name?
oranges. You're comparing
What's your name, sir?
My name's Joe.
Joe. My name is Hamza, yeah? Don't pre-frame me as a theist. I'm not pre-framing you as an atheist, okay? Let's drop the kind of pre-framing baggage, because I'm not going there. I actually understand what you're saying. I used to be agnostic. I used to be a secular humanist. I'm Greek. I look Pakistani, but I'm Greek, alright? So, this is my point I'm trying to make. So, for example, the proof that I have that the world is round is because I've seen pictures, scientists tell me, my teacher told me, and some people have gone around the earth and they've come back. But the point is that proof is enough for me. But that proof itself is what you would call non-experiential, non-empirical. So
You could have an experience.
but that's different. The could is not an argument for why you believe now, because it's a potentiality.
Sure.
Sure, it's the good. Now we're having some ground. So the point I'm trying to say is, I believe the world is round is because of testimony. If we study epistemology, which is the study of knowledge and belief,
But before you run down this road,
Yeah, okay.
you need to pull the reins up, because what you're talking about is epistemology based on someone's experience.
yes,
And what I'm saying is, I'm not talking about the reason why I believe the world is round is because Columbus sailed in a boat. I'm talking about the fact that I flew to Japan and the fact that people are sailing around the world on a frequent basis now.
that's testimonial.
Why is it testimonial?
Because you haven't directly experienced it yourself.
Yeah, but I can.
That's a different issue.
I can, and people do.
Okay, well, if I were to say to you as an argument then, I can fly. But I'm not going to show you now. I'm going to show you in 10 minutes, but believe now I can fly. That's what you're saying to me. That's not a rational argument.
So by that standard, though, by that standard, I would say to you, so you can fly. Have you ever flown? Do you know other people who have flown?
Say yes.
So you say yes, okay, and I would have difficulty believing that,
Exactly.
yeah? Because my experience is that I have never met anybody who has flown. I have never seen anybody who has flown. So for that to be equitable, for me to say the world is round and that I have sailed round it, and for you not to believe it, is for you to say, not only do you not believe me, not only have you not seen me sail around the world,
not
but
seen
you
anyone
have
do
never
it.
met anybody who has ever sailed around the world either.
Yeah, that's an argument from an authority. But the point I'm trying to highlight, would you agree?
It is authority.
Yeah, it is authority. But the point I'm trying to highlight is that sometimes, sir, whether we like it or not, many of our beliefs that we establish to be so true is solely based on someone else's testimony of their experience. Yeah. For example, bruv, yeah? I'm gonna bring a Hackney style for you, I'm from Hackney, yeah? If I said to a brother, one of my bros, back in the day in Kingston School in Hackney, what go on, yeah? Your mum's not your mum because you can't prove it, yeah? People are like, what? Wanna bore me up, yeah, whatever, you know, the old line, wanna stab me, you know, whatever happened, used to happen in the 80s. I mean, no, listen to me, bro. I wanted to prove your mum gave birth to you.
You can't.
You can't!
But you can have a DNA tester.
Yes, but his belief now is not based on a DNA test. So the point is that your dad...
Is that your argument, really?
No,
is that your argument?
No, what I'm trying to show is, I'm trying to simplify epistemology, which is the study of belief. And philosophers discussed this before me and you, and they're greater than me. So I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, and we all are. So we respect them, whoever they are, religious or non-religious. And they've agreed a lot of the things that we believe in is because of testimony.
All this applies to Muhammad as
Now the point I'm trying to say is, but previously, many of us, our belief that the world is round was so conclusive that at the end of the day, its roots are based on testimony. Sure. So what I'm trying to say, sir, is this, is the reason I believe that, yes, we must be agnostics in many things in our life, it's an act of humility. But personally, when it comes to God's existence, I truly believe that is as a fact as the roundness of the earth because of certain fundamental arguments that I can articulate. It's not based on my Holy Spirit experience. It's not based. Well, for example, the first one I said in my presentation, which was, if the universe began, which I could hopefully show that the universe did begin, based on physics, based on mathematics, based on philosophy. If the universe began, there are only 4 logical explanations. It came from or via nothing, it created itself, it was ultimately created by something else created, or created by something uncreated.
We're talking about
and
the
I worked
creator.
through these,
We're talking about
and
the
that's just
creator.
one argument. And if I give you more arguments,
Why can't you?
We're talking about the creator.
Is why can't you have that experience, read the Quran, and come to the conclusion, I think it might be right, but I'm not sure.
That's right.
some people do have that, yeah.
But what experience, that testimony do you have?
Well,
'Cause you are
maybe
here
I
standing
can,
here.
but that didn't happen to me. That's the point. I'm not gonna lie to
This
you.
is very, my brother, because you're standing here, you should have a testimony. I'm a Christian. I have a Bible in my back.
I can only have one conversation at a time.
Okay, go ahead. Let's hold on.
Sorry, yeah. So the point is, you're right. I'm not denying the fact that someone may be able to read the Quranic discourse or any book, or think and reflect about man life in the universe, and still remain a skeptic. That's a human position. I'm not going to deny that in anybody.
But do you know or do you believe it? Do you know it or do you believe it?
Well, both. For God's existence, sorry,
Yeah, for God's existence.
for God's existence, not only do I have good reasons to believe that He exists, but also I have the experiential, spiritual kind of, you feel connected, yeah? But sometimes I don't, sometimes I do, yeah? You go up and down, yeah? But the point is, they have both. And the reason I became a Muslim is not because of the fact that it was based on spirituality, it's because in Islam, which I think makes it slightly unique, is that it links the intellectual discourse and the spiritual discourse and they come together. For example, if you pick up the book, the Quran, it always says, think. In over 100 places it mentions knowledge.
Bro, that's not enough.
Over 70 times it says Aql is your intellect, yeah? So for me that's interesting. That's all I have to offer, man. I don't have all the answers, by the way.
No, sure.
That's good,
But
but
you
I
could read the
asked you a question,
collected
do you
works of
know-
Shakespeare and it would
and
say
you said you
love
have
50
good reasons.
times. It doesn't mean that it's
That was your
it's
answer. You have
holy.
good reasons to believe. But the question I asked you was, do you know you do believe? So you say you believe then. You don't know.
No, I know and believe, yeah. For me they change the words.
Because you're not justifying spirituality and what is physical. You're not justifying that.
What do you
Bro, I'll give you an example. Can I speak? Can I speak?
Be a good Christian and don't buy in, man. Come
I
on.
follow
Do
you
you know
then. Go
you're here
ahead.
or do you believe?
I know you're passionate, brother. Okay? Just relax.
Do you know you're here or do you believe you're alive?
Okay, for me, is belief. What does belief mean?
We're using the English language, so if we're using the English language, we have to go by the.
It's gonna rain.
Yes.
Because we are not sure.
We're using the English language. Yeah?
We don't say
So you must
philosophy, belief,
no,
knowledge.
but I'm saying the definition
Of belief.
of belief.
What is it?
The definition of belief is not verified.
Sure.
You're
okay.
unsure.
No, I know.
You believe something,
I
but
know.
to know something
I know.
is a definite. So I'm asking you whether you believe you're here or whether you know you're here.
Okay, I know.
You know you're here. Okay, so when you say you believe in the existence of this creator,
I would say that
what you are
that
saying
means-
is you are unsure.
No, that means in Islamic tradition, belief, it comes from the word iman. Iman comes from the root word to feel secure and to have an established kind of knowledge. And that's why God says, know that I'm one. So when we say belief in the Islamic tradition, it actually means we know.
Okay, so believe means you know in the Islamic tradition.
Yeah.
So you know that this God exists.
Yes.
All right, fair enough.
And that knowledge can be verified by other knowledge, as one argument I gave to you.
You can verify the existence. See, I can say to
Let
you,
me come down your level, man. It's a bit silly.
I can say to you that the creator or whatever it is exists, and we can agree on that.
Yes.
We can agree that it exists because you understand that this never came into existence
Yeah,
through
yeah,
nothing
yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. But what my argument is that you actually don't know as much as you know as much as I know. And what I know is that I don't know what it is. That's what I know.
I see what you're saying.
I know that I don't know what it is, but you're saying.
Can anybody define creator, please?
1 second, sir. 1 second.
Well, that's my question.
So from that perspective, we know that creator exists. But what it is, that requires revelation. That's our
It requires
Of
revelation.
course it does, because if I can... 1 second, no.
Directly see it.
So where does revelation come from?
Yeah, let me explain.
Okay.
So for example, right, in the most simplest analogy I would give is like someone's knocking on the door. Boom, boom, boom. It's about 12 o'clock, you watch the footy, you're gonna go back to bed, you may play a bit of Xbox, you hear the door. Who the hell is this guy, right? You know there's a knocking.
Right?
You know there's a knocking. You directly experienced it. So that could be an analogy for that we know a creator exists. Do we know who or what that knocker is? No. It has to tell us. So we say, who is it? We look for the peephole or whatever, right? And you might say, it's me or whatever, right? Or it's John. So similarly, one would argue it's irrational to claim that you could just rely on introspective experience solely, because everyone's got different experiences. You can't know where you come from, bro.
Exactly.
Where you come from, bro?
But exactly.
Yeah, but let me finish the answer, yeah? So you may come from South London, I may come
I'm
from
from
East
Mali.
London, you may come from Mali, you may come from, he's half Italian, half Egyptian or something, yeah? He's German?
Right?
Algeria, yeah? What? He's Algerian, yeah? So we're all different, experiences, parenting, upbringing experiences.
Right,
We have very kind of, almost, like a very special spiritual existence. We're all different, bro, yeah? We appreciate that difference. But, my point is this. The way that we believe that God solved that problem is He said, fine, you're not going to rely just on yourself to find out who I am. I'm going to send down an external revelation, which is a verifiable book. It's physical, you can read it. And I'm going to give you some signs in that book that indicate it's come from that creator. And
So
that's
what are these signs?
Okay, good. That's a very good question. For me, I believe there are various things. The first sign is it actually makes sense of God's existence. That's the first one. I'm going to start with simple and go to more complex. So the simple one is it makes sense of God's existence, because in Islamic tradition, if you really think about it, it's quite rational in terms of how it speaks about God. It doesn't say God is like a man, had a center of consciousness with a human nature, a divine nature, which is the Christian mainstream belief. It doesn't start talking about now.
So what are the signs?
Well, that's the first sign.
Right,
Because for example, if someone said to me this is from God and he said God is an elephant with 12 arms, I'll be like, nah man, I ain't reading that book, because from the onset it just doesn't make sense, right?
Excuse me,
so
give us the definition of God.
So from the onset it makes sense of the existence of the Creator. The second point is there are many things
Yes, to give us the definition of God first, and then we can.
that could not have come from a human being in the 7th century. For example,
No. Be careful of this, because what you're going to, because I've heard this argument before, and what we do is that we assume that we know how the whole world was thinking at one point in time. And so what happens is we have no, when you have that level of thinking, you do not think outside of the people of that time. So people say that how did the Egyptians build the pyramids? No one could have, how did they still don't know to this day how they did it, but they did. So just because you don't know how this could have come into being, so this is what people say, I've heard Muslims say, well, no one in around Arabia could have known these things about certain things.
I agree with you on that
So
point.
I'm saying, if you go down that line, what you have to understand is you don't know how the whole world was thinking. You might know how a certain group of people were thinking, but the whole world and how their minds and what they were clued into.
There's maybe more analytical here. Concerning the Egyptians, for example, because I really empathize with your point. I agree with you. It's a misplaced argument. But the thing with the Egyptians, we have theoretical models based on the knowledge of that time to explain how they build the pyramids. There are theoretical models.
Theoretical models.
Well, yeah, for example, it's actually the pyramids of diamond, for example, and they built it that way, yeah? But the point is, the argument I'm going to give you, you can't find anything existent of the time to even explain what I'm trying to say.
So what is it you're trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. So let me give you a specific example. The specific example I'm going to give you is a distinction between the label, the title of the leader of the Egyptians, okay? At the time of Moses, he was called Pharaoh, Pharaon in the Arabic language. At the time of
Can I first say that no pharaoh was called Pharaoh? Because what you have at Abydos in Egypt is a king's list.
Yes.
And the king's list tells you the first king, who was Nama, to the last king, who was Seti. Okay, and it tells you all of the king's names within that time. So over 2,000-year kingdom, there is no king called Pharaoh.
Yes, right.
Not one.
I agree.
Not one.
I agree.
So when you say the king was called Pharaoh,
It was a veneration, it's a title in the great house.
it's like saying a king. It's like saying king.
So that's my point.
King who? King James? King Charles?
But that's
King...
my point. So the point is, in Egyptian history, if you dig a bit further, you see there was a period that the title of veneration was king, yeah? And then it changed, although they had different names, the veneration became pharaoh, which meant the great house. And there was a time in history
Do you
where
understand that Pharaoh is actually a Greek term?
pharaoh, I don't think so. But anyway, the point is, if
Because the Egyptian language, the Egyptians do not call their kings pharaohs, they call them sultans. That is a name of an Egyptian king, usually Egyptian language, is sultan. Sultan is
Are you
king.
from the Holy Tabernacle?
I'm from Mali, I told you already.
Mali,
yeah. So what I'm trying to say to you is you're talking about Egyptian language without having knowledge of the Egyptian language.
I've actually read it myself.
But the Egyptian language, what we get to call it Egypt, first of all, is Greek. It's a Greek term. To call it Pharaoh, second of all, is Greek.
No, it's not.
It is. It's not an Egyptian term.